Sorry. Right, we're recording. So I'll stick it on YouTube for anybody to catch up. So apologies in advance. You've missed the first few minutes. Anyway, so training, strength and conditioning. Tom Watts in Hong Kong, a little bit slow out the gate. I'll chat to Michelle about this regarding his strength and conditioning plan, and it's 250 Hong Kong dollars, about 25 quid or thereabouts, for 6 weeks program. So I thought, well, just in case he's a bit slow, because occasionally he goes missing in action, and then you see him loads, and then he goes missing in action. I'm thinking that's maybe not quite what we want. You people need consistency. So I wrote a quick backup plan, and I'm going to show it to you today. And really, it's for you to decide whether you want to do Tom's plan or pretty much this sort of plan as well. Now, what I'm suggesting to Michelle, we haven't actually discussed this, but my suggestion is it's a charged plan, and you can decide what you pay for it. But I don't get the money. Whatever you pay for it, you put into a kitty which is for your use. And I've got some opinions, only one opinion, about what should happen to that money, and Michelle will communicate that to you and we'll have that conversation. But the point is, it's a Dubai centered fund. So yes, you're paying into it, but you use it for whatever you want to use it for. Yeah. Okay. I'll just leave that then. So that's more of a local discussion. But let me just show you it. Let's try and find that screen share again. New share. Oh, here we go. Hang on. Just bear with me. I've got it there. There it is. Right. Okay, let me just reduce that. Now, can you see, I've got you reduced to the corner. Can you see this Flying Fish Challenge 2021 draft version 0.1 for discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is for discussion. So the basic principle is it's a 6-week program split into 2 times 3 weeks. So week 1, there's a routine to follow. Now, I've got to say about all these routines, if you already are doing CrossFit 7 days a week or some other permutation or variation, you probably don't need this program. And the chances are your program is well up to the speed and you're well up to the mark. What I'm really aiming this at is people who aren't currently doing the program, who need access to a program and have limited access to equipment. So this sort of program, you need a resistance band, you need a body, you need a bit of space, and maybe a weight, a kettlebell, something like that, or whatever, something like that. So minimal equipment. So the way it works, here we go, is there are 20 exercises. Let me tell you the routine first before we go through it. There's 20 exercises split up into push, pull, legs, flexibility, and really whole body exercises. The 6 weeks, after 3 weeks, you do a challenge. And I'm suggesting the challenge may be 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. So a 2-to-1 sort of ratio. And you build up in stages. So there's a routine you do for week 1, a routine you do for week 2, and then we do a challenge after week 3. Okay. And we have a leaderboard. We have a male and a female leaderboard. And bear with me, I'll describe that in a minute. And then we do the same thing again at either a higher intensity or higher weights or whatever, week 4, week 5. And we have a second challenge after week 6. So the idea is to show some progression. Okay. The exercises I'm thinking about are the same exercises. I've just run a 21-day challenge in the UK and Ireland, the team I coach over there. And you'll see there's videos for all this stuff, you know, standard sort of stuff, press ups, leg raises, etc. And I'll pass this out via the email, but a fairly straightforward suite of exercises. At the bottom there, number 20, flying fish burpees. If you've seen the video, it's a burpee plus. Okay, it's got a few more plank swings in it. So anyway, whatever the 20 exercises are, then because people are swinging different weights when it comes to things like kettlebells, what I'm suggesting is that, say, for example, if ladies, your base weight would be 8 kilos, it could be 20 kilos if you wanted, that's up to you. But then if you are doing the exercise with an 8 kilo kettlebell or weight, then you get a weighting factor of 1-to-1. If you're doing it with 24 kilo kettlebells, there's somebody in the squad doing that, then you get an enhanced score, because clearly if you're doing 28 kilo kettlebell swings and somebody else is doing just 24 kilo kettlebell swings, then they should get a bigger score. Okay, so that's the weighting. So there's a weighting factor. That's just my suggestion. And gents, I'm suggesting that you shouldn't really be swinging 8 kilos, then your base weight should be maybe 12 kilos up to 26. But you see what I mean? That's for discussion and agreement if you're happy with that. But there's a weighting factor for males, females, or whatever. And if you happen to be a lady and amazingly powerful, and I've got one lady swinging a 24 kilo kettlebell, and good luck to her, as far as I'm concerned. So, in terms of the, she's amazing. She's not that. She's about 60 kilos, so she's amazingly powerful. Nikki, if you know her. Anyway, what I'm suggesting, and once again, first suggestion is we have a 3-week program and optional 3 days a week. And basically, you've got a flexibility day, and as you see, week 1 you're progressing, so you're progressing on to the challenge, but it's you're changing the on and off interval, etc., and the rest interval. So you do 15 exercises. There's 15 exercise. There's more exercise than that, but you basically on the flexibility day, call that Monday for argument's sake, you do the flexibility routine. That should take about 30 minutes. Then say on the second day, maybe Wednesday, for example, you do the power and press exercises, 10 of those. And on day 3, call it Friday or whatever, you do the push flexibility exercises. Yeah, that sort of thing. So you're grouping the exercises as you expect in any sort of program. Something along those lines. Like I say, if you're doing CrossFit or whatever, then this may be quite superfluous. So, it's really an optional thing, but then that leads on to the challenge in week 3, leaderboard, then week 6, and we show some progression, and everything is backed up with a video, because I like my videos, and that's really it. Yeah. So I'll put this out by email, but just what's your thoughts about doing something like that, maybe starting next week? And it's about competition again, isn't it? So your competition, keeping together, and I'll be looking at possibly running the Dubai people with the UK people for the first 6 weeks, and then when Hong Kong is fully straightened out, then joining everyone together after 6 weeks for one after that. What's your thoughts on that?
Tim, I think that's fine. I mean, I'd love to do this, but for myself, I am going nowhere near any gyms until I'm fully vaccinated up, which means that I'm quite limited in terms of the weights. I have got some weights at home and kettlebells, but not a lot. So, and of course the UK is in lockdown, so I think they won't have access to any gyms at the moment. So in terms of weights and things like that, I think we just have to be a bit flexible.
Oh yeah, you don't, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't been watching all my videos, but just in case you had, all of the videos, for example, if you looked at I'm sure if you go in and looked at the press up video, there's probably 6 or 7 press up variations, from long lever, short lever, inclined, declined, renegade rows, all sorts of things. So really you'd find something in that, press ups with a band, without a band. So you could do all of these exercises just with body weight or whatever weight you've got handy, or a resistance band. So you don't actually need a gym for this stuff. Yeah, but I've got to recognise. I mean, if you're doing body weight squats as opposed to kettlebell squats, and the chances are in 2 minutes you might get 100 in. But if you're doing kettlebell squats with a 24 kilo, then you'll probably get less in. You see what I mean? So the weighting factors we can change.
How do you do a kettlebell swing with no equipment? What would you suggest for that? Have you got an alternative? Right.
Yeah, have you got a resistance band?
Yeah.
Right, have a look at the video.
Okay, fine.
You see?
That was just a very obvious one to me.
It's basically a front pose. Yeah, but yeah, it's all there. So
Okay.
But options, but that's just my take on it. Most of the exercises have probably got 5 or 6 variations, so you can do it. But if it turns out that we come to the challenge day and people say we haven't got kettlebell swings, well, okay, fine, we'll do that as a front raise then. You see what I mean? So we can test and adjust. And this is just really you could say I can't do a pike press up because I haven't got a pike. But have a look at the video because you don't need one. You see what I mean? So it's just this is just my initial take on the sort of exercises. But if the majority of you say no, this one we cannot possibly do this, okay, well I can put something else in. I'll just find another. If, for example, it's a pressing exercise, a clean and press, and say people couldn't do it, I'd find another pressing exercise so we hit the same points, hit the same marks, and change the exercise. So that's don't worry too much about the exercises because we can change those. Yeah. But what I'll do is, okay, let me just get me all on big screen again. So from the assembled throng, anybody saying no, I can't do this, or do you think it's a good idea?
So it's 3 days, 3 times a week.
What I'm suggesting now, how many times a week you do it is up to you. But what I would do is, if depending on your racing schedule and training schedule and all the rest of it, then what I'll offer is, because part of this is getting you together with the UK based people. So I'd try and find a day. It might be, I'd say 9 o'clock one day, 9 o'clock over a weekend, probably Saturday, I should think, because obviously you're the Friday, Saturday weekend. Say, for example, we went for a session 9 o'clock Saturday, so 1 o'clock Dubai, for example. Then we'd come together and we'd run the session. You see what I mean? So the key part of it is you're also getting to know names and faces for other people in the squad. So I'd run that.
Yeah, I think from my side, and obviously on Saturday, this Saturday, for example, we're training in the morning with the diggers on the boat, and then we're training in the afternoon on the boat.
Right. So, okay. So we'd have to work out and see if there's a. We'll have to work out. I'll have to liaise with Nikki and Michelle and work out to see if there's a time. If we end up, we do an evening session for you and something else for the UK people. That doesn't matter. We'll get that sorted out later on. But if there's a time we can come together and do some practice, then that's fine. So it would be provisionally week 1. There's your 3 days, and then we'll try to get together on one session during that week. Week 2, same again, and then week 3 challenge and that sort of thing. But say if you can't make it, then you can't make it. But I'll knock out some options for you, and then we'll go with the best guess who can make what. But you see what I mean? The key part of it is, yes, we're exercising together, but we're getting together. That's the main thing. Yeah. Okay. Deborah, what do you think? Looking very, very thoughtful.
Well, I don't know if it's a bit complicated.
Too complex.
Maybe I just need to see it visually in paper.
Too many times.
I mean, if I were, thinking about a weekend boot camp altogether, which I really enjoyed before, but for me, I would want it earlier in the day.
Okay.
1 o'clock here is not really the best time for us, but personally, I would like it about 11.
No, fine. I did a session with Heidi May last weekend. It was 6 o'clock here, so that's going to be what, 11 o'clock there. Fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I'm up doing that nonsense anyway. So yeah, that works for me fine to get it done earlier. So anything like that, as long as it's not 3 in the morning. Maybe not that. You see what I mean?
No, but I think sort of for us, and I'm aware of obviously the time difference, but I think sort of 10 o'clock for us would be good, especially if we do end up training again later on in the day.
Yeah.
And I just think it works with the rhythm of the day better.
No, that suits me fine. I mean, I probably won't get many other people from the UK to be training at 6 in the morning, but that's fine. That doesn't matter. That's fine. But yeah, that works for me. But it looks more complex than it is. But essentially, it's week 1, day 1 do this, day 2 do this, day 3 do this. and we maybe meet up at the weekend and do a session. Yep.
Yeah.
Week 2, day 1, day 2, day 3, do this, this, and this. Meet up. Week 3, do this, this, and this, and then we meet up on the a day and do the challenge. That's it. Not quite rinse and repeat. Rinse and improve next time round. Heidi May, yes.
Yeah, I think this is brilliant, Tim, and I think it's a fantastic resource. For me personally, I have a slight predicament in that I've paid up with a trainer till the end of March for it's kind of the 4 early morning sessions of the week, and it's a kind of group class.
Yeah.
It's great, and it's very specific to paddling. You know, it's this stuff and different stuff. So I've got that in already. I'd love to join a group session. But is it okay if I didn't do this because I'm already doing the other stuff?
Well, you probably want to come and do the challenge days anyway.
Yes, I would do absolutely, do the challenge. But I think what I'm doing is probably supporting this. You know, it's in alignment with this, but it's not. I can't ask the trainer to do exactly this. That's my problem. But I'm signed up with him till March, you see. So I paid up.
And you make a really good point there, because, you know, strangely enough, I do a lot of stuff regarding paddling, all this, but there's other things going on in people's lives, and of course I do get that. So if you can't make this, fine. So my job, especially while there's uncertainty and we don't know what's going on this year, is to create loads of options.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that.
Like a pick and play thing, if you like. Like we've just started this 100 burpee challenge. It's optional. 7 minutes 18, by the way.
Blimey.
Wow.
And I'm senior C. So you lot must be going. I mean, my son can do 2 burpees to my 1, so he's doing it this afternoon. But the point is, it's a fun. Well, I say a fun. I think it's a fun challenge. Yeah. If you think it's a fun challenge, you'll do it. But the point is, it's just stuff that, you know, some stuff appeals to you, some stuff doesn't. But what I've found in the UK, we're just running that for a few days. We've got a team in the south called Raging Dragons. We've got a team in the north called Amethyst, my old team. And these people didn't know each other, and now they do. You see what I mean? It's just that sort of stuff that just gets people together doing stuff. But if you're not into burpees and pull-ups and that sort of thing, that's fine. You probably you'll learn to love them. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, but you don't have to be doing everything.
I think it's a good idea to, as you say, get to know your teammates around the globe. And I think that should be probably the main focus. The good thing for us over here is we are still paddling. So, you know, in a normal week, if we're doing GB as well, I could be paddling five days a week, plus the gym, plus your challenge. So we're doing a lot over here. But if we can angle it where there's one focus session, if it's once a week or once every 2 weeks, where we're trying to get the whole team squad together around the globe, I think that would try and get as many people on that call as possible, which would be great.
Yeah.
That is the aim. And like I say, I wouldn't say we've just had a bit this reset in Hong Kong. It's going to take a couple of days just to bed in. It's just one of these things that happens when we think about it. If you bring 100+ people together, then occasionally you'll get somebody who decides, actually, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing that. And I'm saying, well, actually, remember, it's one team. Remember, I just said that. It's not you, it's us. That's all. So that's all. But I expect there'll be a couple of other hiccups along the way. And frankly, I'll be surprised if there wasn't. Because that's the way it is. That's human nature, isn't it? So that's the aspiration, shorter term rather than long term. But that will take a few steps. But that's fine. Okay. But provisionally, what I'll do is I'll send this out. It's when you look at it, when you see it in front of you, it's more straightforward than it appears. It looks like a lot of gobbledygook at the moment, but let's just say I'll send it out. Give me your thoughts by Friday. I'll have a chat with Michelle about a couple of admin things, which was just admin. And then if you're happy with it, we'll look to kick it off next week if everyone's happy. And like I say, if you're happy with those exercises, or if Abigail says to me, actually don't do that, do this exercise, and we say, actually, yeah, why not? You know, whatever. So and then we'll run with that, and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Just on the sheet, it says 60 seconds, 40 seconds. I guess that's 60 seconds on, 40 seconds rest.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's and as you'll see, as it progresses on, then you're either increasing the exercise interval and decreasing, because it's all about conditioning, heart rate stuff. That's where we're going with it. And to that point, and the whole point about this, people saying to me, what's the point of the burpee challenge? Okay. And I had this conversation in Hong Kong earlier, and it's a really important question. And the question is, well, they said to me, I don't want to read. This is a quote from one of the paddlers. He said to me, I don't want to read all the rationale. I just tell me what to do. I said, well, fine, but you're not a club paddler. I get that, but as an international paddler, if you're going to be doing 500 meters and it's going to be maybe with a start 130 strokes, you need to be thinking on purpose about each of those 130 strokes. And the stuff we're doing on ergos, which I'll talk about in a minute with Paul and the rest, it's about working out the most efficient application of your power to a paddle, a piece of carbon, and maximizing that every stroke, every step of the way. If it's just sit in the boat, tell me what to do, and I'll just blast away, well, great. But not only are you an individual, but you're an individual in a boat, and you've got somebody in front of you, beside you, and we need to blend you all together, yeah. And that's what it's about as well. So that's all this stuff. So, for example, when we're talking about ergos or paddling, if you're thinking about, if I just do 500 strokes, great. Well, how can I make that more efficient? So let's just jump onto ergos. Paul, tell me about your ergo runs today. Just give us a story. So the floor is yours.
So today the challenge was 5 minutes where you did level 4 heart rate, or let's say pulling 85%, then pulling 70, then 85, 70, 85. 2 minutes rest, 5 minutes again, 2 minutes rest, 5 minutes again, 2 minutes rest, 10 times 30 strokes with a minute rest. So very difficult to get your heart rate down. I have a heart rate monitor, which I look at and look at all the stats all the time. I'm a bit anal with all that. But what you can control is your power. So I was really trying to focus on trying to hit the power threshold of where I think my 85% is, then dropping down to 70. Yeah, I mean, me and Tom, we both love, well, sorry, we hate the erg, but we love it. You know what I mean? Because the erg it's just an absolute killer. And it really, for me, it really tells you, you've got to hit your right threshold. If you start off too quick, as in a race, you can blow up. Yes. So how do you find your threshold at the rating you need to complete the task at the best result? That's what I like about the erg. Yeah. Okay. What was interesting about it was your stroke rate was something in the region of 223, and you were completing the 30 strokes in about 70 seconds, roughly speaking, plus or minus. Yeah. So tell me what you thought about in terms of, did you actually do that's a very slow stroke rate, but were you sort of pulling as hard as possible until it started spinning down and then going again? So what was your methodology doing that? Okay, so we really drive through the heels. We pull all the way back up to the chin, release quick, back and pull. When I did the first 30 strokes, the first challenge, if you look at my stroke rate, it was a lot higher, but never covered as far. The difficulty with 30 strokes is, what is it you're trying to achieve? On the first one, it was about a start and trying to do in my opinion, trying to do a little bit quicker. So it's always difficult on just 30 strokes because you can play it in different ways. Yes. So yeah, today was about getting that distance and as you said, a bit more of a chug. Probably could have a couple of strokes higher. I think on the 30 strokes, I averaged 25 every single one. But I was covering more distance, but in a slower time. Right. Whereas I was doing, say, over 300 meters on the first one in, say, 55 seconds. I was covering, say, 330 in 70 seconds this time. Right. Well, I just did exactly the same thing as you did, but I did it on the water, right? And last time I was on the ergo a few days ago, I was doing a 30-stroke piece. And for example, so for me, not as powerful as you. So in my 30 strokes, 29 strokes a minute, I'm doing about 300 meters, yeah? Then I ramped up the stroke rate to
45 strokes a minute, which is a crazy rate really, and I was doing 235 meters. And then I dropped it to about 31 and I was doing 270. So for me, yeah, the way I'm configured, the slower the stroke rate, obviously not too slow, you know, I'm going to be 28, 29. That produces the best power uptake for me. So the whole purpose of the exercise is, yes, not just to blast away and get a score, it's to think on purpose about how you can get the best score for you. And there was, I've forgotten who it was, apologies. Somebody did a run this week and they were saying to me they were throwing up. They were actually making them sick. And they were there, when I looked at their stroke rate, it was 45 plus. I say, just do the same thing again, but try and just peg yourself. So peg one metric. So the metric she's pegging is the stroke rate. And the only way you can go to improve your time is to be more efficient or more powerful. If you have too many metrics, so if you're don't know what your heart rate is, you don't know what your stroke rate is, you don't know this, don't know that, then everything's everywhere. It's a bit like a shotgun. You get a shotgun, you shoot it at a screen, and you've got, there you go, you've got 5 shotgun holes. If you're into shooting coaching, the way to coach people is to work where the middle of the group is and then move the group onto the target. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So by fixing some metrics, be it stroke rate, heart rate, whatever, then you can start actively working on something else. Yes.
Would it be, because I did my, what did I do? I did the shorter one. No, it was the 30 strokes. Yeah, I did that this morning. And the first time I did it, I just pulled. And then the second time I did a start, a quick, half stroke, full stroke, half stroke to, get the wheel going. And then I kind of lost count of my strokes. I did like 4 of those, and then I started my 1 after I got started. So it's slightly different than the first one. And I wonder where the metric to set is a minute. If you set 60 seconds, because then your variables, you can vary your stroke rate, and you could vary your, how you start it and kind of play it that way. And then you'd get a measure from us within a set time of the distance covered and the stroke rate that was most efficient to get the furthest distance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I over the next few weeks, Nikki, yes, I'm going to be working with different things. But I want to get people thinking about fixing certain things and improve exactly that. But yes, we're coming on to that as well. But you see what I mean about sort of just fixing a few variables and getting you to think about how you can get more efficient and how you can deliver more power. And the same thing, before I hand over to Nikki, and I mentioned it last week, I think, yeah, you could sit in your car driving at 50 kph, 30 miles an hour in 4th gear or 2nd gear. You're using a huge amount of effort and energy in 2nd gear, but you're going the same speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like doing pulling the ergo at 45 strokes a minute, 50 strokes a minute. You're working hard, no doubt. You're making yourself sick, but you're not actually going anywhere. So it's not productive effort. So that's it. Nikki, yes.
No, I was just going to say, so I did the 30 stroke thing yesterday as well. And I mean, I know from my paddlers, because they do the 2K, often we get the results and we look at their stroke rate and we're going, why is your time like this? If you just bring your stroke rate down, you'll be a lot more efficient. And it is, it's you like you say, that the first 10 you're going for it, and then you lengthen out. And all it is on that rowing machine is technique. If you use your technique properly, you will slow your rating down to about 26, 27 strokes. And you will get a lot more distance in, and you will be smooth on that bungee. That's all it is. And it is, the higher your stroke rating, the crappier distance you're going to get. And in fact, every time I did those 30 strokes, my distance improved. Even if it was by a meter, it was an improvement as I went down the line. So at the end of the day, it comes down to technique. Like Paul was saying, you're pulling the handle up to here. Why are you going up to your chin? You don't pull the paddle to there. If you're driving off that machine through your heels, you need to drive off your whole foot. Use as much as you can to be more efficient.
That's a really good point, because I mean, Paul will know about this, and probably Tom, I'm sure Tom as well. As and when we talk more about the paddling, I talk about the kick off the back, as in the drive off the back of the wall, which is I can deliver another 30% of my body power from the back of the stroke, which is worth looking at. And when you're on an ergo, I don't tend to do this a lot, but that pull up to the chin, if that can deliver an extra kick, the point is though, it's a bit counterintuitive, but you try different things to see what worked for you. And this is why I like the rowing ergo far more than the paddling ergo, because it's a better, even though the technique is slightly different, it's a better indicator of what you're doing to deliver power, exactly what you're talking about. But same as in a dragon boat, so many times people equate stroke rate to speed, and we're going for boat speed, not body speed. Now, when you've got a great technique, then you can ramp it up, but there's still going to be a point at which you lose that connectivity with the water. So for me, and we've done tests on over 100 SPM strokes a minute, when we get above about 95, then we're wheel spinning, and you can see that from the speed of the boat, it just drops off. So there will be an optimum. It's only when you work together in a boat that you work out what that optimum stroke rate is for you. And if you're in tactical moves, call them pulses, whatever you want to call them, blast, burst, whatever, then you're going to a certain level. You're not going to suddenly go to 130 strokes a minute and expect anything to happen differently. So everything is done by design. So like I say, it's test adjust, but when you come to the race piece, then you've got a quiver of arrows. You've got tools in your toolbox. If we're going to take this stroke rate up, then we're going to go up to 85 strokes a minute, and we know we can hold that for 40 strokes. So I call it a burst, for example. It's a tactical maneuver. You're neck and neck with whoever, and you've got it in you for 40 strokes. But if it comes to 30 strokes and nothing's happening, then go back into transition, because otherwise you're just wheel spinning. You see what I mean? So you're using that as a tactical thing as well. So it's not just head down, arse up. It's paddling on purpose, precision paddling on purpose. That's what it is. But it's only through doing these sort of exercises you start thinking about that. And let me just jump back, if I might, to burpees. And so at the moment, for example, I started yesterday on 10 minutes, and I thought, well, I'll do 10 burpees a minute, right? So I can do 10 burpees in about 30 seconds. So that gave me a 30-second rest interval. Yeah. And I think I did basically 80 burpees, so 8 minutes. And then the last 20, I just knocked them out. Yeah, like you do. And that came in at 9:03. So today, just change the tactics a little bit. I thought, okay, fine. I'm going to do 13 burpees a minute. So I can do that in about 40 seconds, that sort of thing. Rest for 18, 20 seconds. So I did that for 6 rounds and then knocked out the last 22. And I took 85 seconds off my personal best from yesterday. Now, I'm not going to carry on doing that. I'll probably go up to 15 tomorrow and burn out and try different things. But the whole point of the exercise, whether it's burpees, rope climbs, ergo, paddling, then you're thinking on purpose about how you can take this piece of kit, this body, and get the best out of it with all the various levers, whatever strength I've got. That's the point of it. So it's a scientific, semi-scientific process, thinking about it. Yes, a question from the house.
Me.
James, but you're not Jake.
It's Jenny, my husband's computer. So I just wanted to check with the new ergo hit. I haven't got a heart rate monitor or anything, so I'm just judging myself the effort. Is that correct?
Right. Well, in that case, you're on RPE, so rate of perceived exertion. What I mean, basically, you'll know what your 85. So if I said to you, we always talk in a dragon boat about 100%. Now, reality is, if you're talking about that last energy level, creatine phosphate, that's your absolute fight and flight. It's Usain Bolt doing 100 meters, after 8 seconds, after 60 meters, he's actually slowing down. I mean, it's imperceptible. Or it's Eddie Hall doing a 500 kilo deadlift, 10 seconds and he's done. So we don't really go into that in dragon boat. Maybe in the last few strokes, we don't really go into that. So when we talk about 100%, what we're really talking about is that high-end anaerobic, where we're not quite breaking down, but we're putting our maximum in. yeah, we call it 100%, but it's not really. It's something like 85, 90%. It's VO2 max sort of area if you're into that sort of thing. So how long do you think you could hold that for? That you know, you really think about when you're going down to 500 meters in a dragon boat and you're putting absolutely everything in that level, yeah.
Right.
So that's really your 85, 90%.
Okay.
So if you come back to say you're doing an aerobic piece, a tempo piece where you're really sort of doing good technique and something you could carry on doing for half an hour, 40 minutes, yeah, that's your aerobic zone. So if you think about, say, the bottom end of that, so it's aerobic, you're working efficiently, you're working well, but it's not warming up. So if that feeling is the top end is your level 4 and the bottom one's your bottom level 3. Now,
Okay.
those of you who work with heart rate monitors, what you'll probably do is the same as me. I'll get on it, and if I'm doing my maximum heart rate is 165. As a 59-year-old, I don't go there often. I might touch on 155, 160 because what's the point of training there all the time? But I know if I'm going to go and pump out a level 4, I'm going to be 145, 148. I don't need to be checking the thing. I've done it that often that you know the feeling, yeah. So you know what your level 4, just VO2 max sort of level work feels like. And if you drop it back to your tempo level, you'll know what you'll get to know. For me, level 3 is 128 pretty much. But you don't have to know the number, but you get to know the feeling.
Okay.
So when we're in a dragon boat together, as and when, we'll say, right, we did dial up level 4, let's go. And you know what level 4 feels like. And you might say, well, level 4 for me, I can feel it in the tricep, I can feel this, I can feel that. And if you're under load, you know what that feels like. So that's what you're dialing into, that's what you're pulling into. So you see what I mean? So you can use a heart rate monitor to give you that, to understand where it is. Paul and Tom and anybody else who works with heart rates, do you agree with that? Or would you want to add anything to that in terms of dialing up a specific heart rate range?
Well, for sure, I think you can feel it. I mean, not problem. I have a low heart rate. My resting heart rate is like 50, through my sleep. But even once I get into a race, even at trying to keep it at level 3, once you're hitting hard on the rowing machine and it's warm and it's in the gym it's probably 24 degrees. Even I'm slowing it down to 23 strokes a minute. My heart rate is struggling to get down to that kind of level. However, if you look at my heart rate monitor, as soon as I rest, it'll drop down to 100 straight away within a few seconds. Right. So I struggle to drop it. I struggle to drop it on while I'm doing the exercise, even though I'm trying to reduce it down. So if I'd reduce that effort level today to 70 and to reduce it down to 23 strokes a minute, my heart rate is still above level 3. So I don't know whether I should be really slowing my stroke rate down on that.
When you finish a hard piece, I mean, what if I do a hit session then I'll probably paddle around for a couple of minutes. It'll probably take me, level 2 for me is about 115, 120, and then so what I'll do is I'll paddle around really, really light until it gets below 100. Then I get off the water. So how long would it take you?
It take me forever because the minute I start doing exercise, my heart rate just jumps up as well, and it's hard to bring it down with reducing effort and stroke rate.
No, you're saying when you're finished, how quick does it come down when you're finished?
You'll probably find it stays high for about 20, 30. It depends on part of it fitness. Some of it is physiology. Some of it is hereditary and that sort of thing. But a lot of people tend to find they'll go hard. It will drop down a little bit. Then after about 20 seconds, it will settle. And then for me, it'll probably take me a couple of minutes to get down to what I call level 2.
Yeah.
For me, if I stop, it'll drop really quickly, just in a few seconds. If I stop, if I continue to cool down, my heart rate will still be high. But the minute I stop, it'll drop.
Right. Okay. But the
same with me really, and I think again some of this is finding that threshold, as you're saying, in a race. Your threshold on the 200-meter race is very different than trying to do a 2K race. Yeah. So where is your threshold to keep your maximum effort going for that period? And you always have a little bit left, more than not. If you get fit enough, you usually have a very little bit left at the end. But the race, again, I wear heart rate monitors. The race that we did down And it wasn't that hot during the day. You know, my heart rate quickly climbed to 170. My average heart rate for the 1.28K was 170, pretty much all the race. So I don't know where you would expect it to be, but that's where it was. But
well, I agree and disagree a little bit in terms of at the end of the race. When you think about it, you're going into your primitive brain. So it's only when you know, if you start a 2K or start a 500 meters and you can see the finish line off in the distance, you say you'll go off hard. You'll go off hard. It's only when that finish line is in sight that you can dig something out, and you're going into fright and flight at that point. And you'll always find, you know, same as when you're on the ergo, you might be chugging away, pulling 150, whatever. But in the last 10, you can always pull 145, 143. You can, because that's just human nature. We all understand that. But it's the thing when we're going into the difference between sport and performance sport is tapping into that and know when you can hold your performance just below that and be able to recover. Because when you're pulling the 143, when I'm finished, I'm done.
yeah.
If that means I can pull 147 and recover from it to go again. So that's that. But in terms of maybe not a 200, but to my mind, and this is the way I train and the way I would profess to coach it, a 2K race is actually 7 sprints. Right, so it's going to be 4 times 430, depends on the 430, and actually the turn is actually 93 meters. So if you like, 3 turns, 3 sprint turns linked up to 4 straight runs of about 430. Race start into the turn, race start out of the turn. It's just sprint after sprint after sprint. And this whole point about all this HIIT stuff is you reduce the interval down and you go hard on the straight, you go hard in the turn. You go, it's only 8 minutes. So to my mind, people say it's a distance race. I look upon it as a sprint. And you can, you know, you're fit enough and we're fit enough. And a few years ago at the Worlds in 2015, on our 1,000 meters, obviously, you know, on the Worlds, you only do 1,000 meters at Worlds. This is the way I do it, right or wrong. We found after 800 meters, there was a noticeable dip in the performance. You know, people went out hard for 500. They held on for 200 or 300, around about 800 meters. It wasn't close enough to the finish. So we put in a tactic to do a race start and a sprint. And we sprinted the last 200 meters of the 1,000. So it's only the way you configure. And you're not going to do this every week, but we did 1,000 after 1,000 after 1,000. Not good enough, do it again. Not good enough, do it again. Yeah. You see what I mean? So you can't burn the candle at both ends, but you can work. You know, you can work wonders if you buy into it and it makes sense, and your athletes understand what you're trying to do, and it means something. You see what I mean? So there's all sorts of stuff going on here, and you know, I'm sure those of you who've done a lot of racing will agree. When I first started all this, I used to think that the race psychology was about 50%. Now I think it's above 90%. You go to the Worlds, everyone's fit. You know, and to quote Muhammad Ali, you've got to have the skill and the will, but the will has to be stronger than the skill. Otherwise, yeah, everyone's skillful at the Worlds. Everyone's fit. Everyone's trained, I hope. Maybe not Trinidad and Tobago, but even then, I wouldn't take anything for granted. You see what I mean? So it's a completely different level. But you know, you've got the will and the skill, then you've got a winning combination, and that's what this is all about. So even though we can't train together, we can start thinking about the race psychology side of things, and this is what this is all about: just thinking this together, thinking on purpose, stroke by stroke. That's it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's an hour. I've talked a lot. I'm sorry I talk a lot and I make a lot of videos, and I'm sorry about that. Let's have a quick roundabout. Let's go through the any quick thoughts, observations from anybody before we just go around the house.
For me, looking at this 3 times a week, however many weeks, it looks great, and I'm keen to get onto a group target to group thing to do a session to do it, and that's fine. But obviously we are paddling, we are in the gym, we're doing personal training. So fitting it in 3 times a week might be the problem. So I'd like to try it, but then I have to dip in and out because of everything else that we've got on.
The key part, same as Heidi made, the key part is to do the challenges.
Yeah.
We'll have the weekly calls. If you want to get together, if you're able to get together, we can do a joint session, fine. If you're not doing another program, then there's a program for doing another program. Like Heidi May, for example, she's tied into another program. Then the chances are, if you looked at her program, they're going to be fairly generic. It's probably going to be hitting the same marks pretty much. You see what I mean? So and what I'm not saying, I'm going to provide loads of options, and a lot of them you won't be able to do, and that's fine, because if you're doing other stuff, and especially if you're paddling, of course, do the paddling.
Yeah,
that's all. Yeah, and if you're short of paddling routines, well, there's 16 on teams as a starter, so there's any amount of stuff that I'll provide, and I'm not expecting, you know, I put out a load of rationale and stuff. I'll be surprised if anybody, well, hopefully somebody might have dipped into it, but I'll be surprised if everybody's read it, because there's 26 pages of it and it took ages to write. But the point is, as we go through the cycle, then I'll be dipping into that and saying, right, now let's talk about race skeletons, let's talk about scales, whatever, this sort of training and how it works and why it works. And by the way, if you want to know more, there's a document there. And let's talk about blah, blah, blah. And if you want to know more, there's a video there. You see what I mean? So these are resources that you can dip into as and when, but we'll talk about these as, and the whole point about the weekly returns or homework, if you like, is the idea is we talk about something, a concept on the call, if you can make it, and then you go and practice that in the homework. Yeah, that's it. And obviously I'll link in with Nikki and Lee in Hong Kong regarding that. Yeah, and especially Nikki's as an experienced coach and Lee in Hong Kong. I'm not saying do this. We're having a conversation saying, well, try this. And Nikki might say, well, actually, I think we should do that. Okay, let's do that. No problem. Yeah. That's it. Right. Right. Nikki, then, any points around the house?
No, not for me. Just listening and observing and just seeing what everyone else has got to say, everyone else's opinion that has to work out and crack the stuff.
Yeah. You still look very ominous there. It must be your lighting. It's quite yeah. Anyway. Okay, Joanne.
I actually really like the idea of us working together on something like this program, but I also have commitments as well in the gym with a trainer, and which I love doing. But I also see the value of this. And I think it's quite unifying if we all did it together, but I'm willing to go with the majority, whatever suits. But I like us working together ongoing on something like this. I hope that makes sense.
No, absolutely. But yeah. Say, I mean, but I'll be putting out lots of options, but I understand people have other stuff going on, other commitments, and that's important as well.
Yeah.
Of course. Brilliant. Okay, and I'll answer your email more detail when I finish the UK call later on. So no worries.
Thank you so much.
Right, Jenny.
No, I'm good. I think we've, all good from me. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to know. So
brilliant. Tom.
Hi guys. Yeah, I suppose I'll just elaborate on what you said about the breaking it up when you have a distance, because I'm really interested in the psychology part of it. And I actually watched a video recently on the British recorder for 2,000 meters, how he approaches it. And he breaks it down into segments. And he doesn't even tell himself at any point he's going to do a 2,000 meters. So he does a 500 meter to start, which he calls a warm up. Then he spends 500 trying to work on his technique. And he's cheating his mind into covering the distance. And by constantly slightly changing something, it gives another burst of energy. So that's how I try to do, like the 3-minute pieces I've just done. I'll do a full start and you're way low. You're like 29s, 32s for the first few strokes. And then I'll say, right, I'm gonna have a rest now and let it creep all the way up to 136, 137. And you're cheating yourself into thinking that you're having a break, when in fact, your overall flat line is where you would be if you're constantly pulling away. So I don't know if anyone's interested. I'll share that YouTube link because it was really good for me for longer.
Please do. I'll just give you one more anecdote. Before I was a marathon kayak paddler. This is before Dragon Boat. I was a marathon runner, and I used to do like 250, that sort of thing. When I was your sort of age, you're probably a bit younger. And my strategy, I'm not saying it's a good strategy. My strategy, it was a 23-mile warm up and a 3-mile sprint. Now that's, you know, we used to do sort of the Devizes Westminster canoe race, and we did a 70-mile warm up. You know, it's just whatever works for you. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but this is what Tom's talking about. This idea of kidding yourself. Not well, you are actually, because you're controlling your mind, because like any other human being, your mind will tell you to. It will still tell you, why are you working that hard? It's only a race. There's not a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. So you have to kid yourself to a certain extent. And this is so important, because you have to master you. Otherwise, you will overcome you. It's just the way it is, isn't it? So for me, that worked for that 23 and 3, or you may have some other sort of anecdotes like that. That's quite important, about that mastery over your mind, whether you're talking about racing a 2,000 meters or 26 miles. The same principle applies. It's only a mind, isn't it? End of the day. And it's
Tom, you need to convince yourself that the salad tastes like a pie.
You know, I've just been wading through a salad for the last half an hour. I'm surprised you didn't notice.
Okay, whatever works. Abigail, Rob, thank you.
Yeah, all good with me. I like the idea of this. I think it's great. I think it's going to be impossible to get something that suits everybody. So
of course,
encourage people to do as much of it as they can. For me, the benefit of this is something that can be done at home between putting the kids to bed and getting yourself ready for bed. So I like the fact that it's flexible. I've had a bit of a nightmare with Microsoft Teams, but I think I'm working on that in terms of getting the technology sorted. But overall, I think it's great. I think it's great to try and bring everybody together and unify the wider team. So yeah.
Even though, yeah, absolutely, I appreciate your paddling, but for the other people in different parts of the squad, even if they can't paddle, so well, there's still stuff we can do. There's still stuff, still building blocks we can put in place. So let's crack on and do that, and then just take it on the chin, whatever comes down the track. Really, that's it. Really. Heidi May, yes.
No, it's all great for me. Just remind me, how often are the challenges? When will you be? Is it weekly or every 3 weeks?
Every 3 weeks. So basically, say for example, hypothetically, if everyone's happy and we kicked off on Monday, then we'd go week 1 possible session together, week 2, and then challenge after week 3. But I'll sort the dates out with you and Michelle, and then after 3 weeks as well. 3 weeks and 6 weeks. That sort of thing.
Okay. And sorry, one really technical question. If I'm not doing this specifically, what do you want entered into the spreadsheet?
Right. Well, if you look at the spreadsheet, you'll see, I mean, basically, it's going to be 10 on intervals of around a minute and an interval down. So, you know, if you're happy with anywhere between 30 seconds and 60 seconds. So some sort of hit session.
Yeah, okay.
You see what I mean? If you think about the ratio of 2 to 1, if it's a 60 to 30 or 2 to 1.5 or whatever it's going to be, it's that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but you're
I'll do it. I'll do something. Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is in addition to the weekly returns that we do. So the spreadsheet we fill in, those are the weekly returns, and this is in addition to it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Tell me more. Yes. So the weekly returns. So
and that's what we put in the spreadsheet. So we do the weekly returns and put those details in the spreadsheet. But this is separate. This doesn't go in the spreadsheet. This is a separate.
Yeah. Let me just absolutely, because you're looking quizzical. So I need to unpack this. Right. So
I'm with you. Yeah. Okay.
If you look at the homework. Sorry, bad term. If you look at the return, it's a good term, isn't it? Because it suggests it's coming back. But look at the returns. The paddling return, it took me 38 minutes. So you're fitter than me, so it should take less time. But call it with a warm up, you should get the paddling return in 45 minutes. I mean, I'll probably do. Paul, how long did the ergo return take for you?
Yeah, just over 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's depending on how the idea is those take about 45 minutes each. And if you can't do paddling and you can't do ergo, you do the gym return, that takes 17.5 minutes So what I've said to people is, for the returns, do at least one of those. If you want to do one a day, fine, but at least one of those permutations. So if you want to do the minimum because you're busy as opposed to lazy, you know what I mean, then you do one of those returns from the email and a challenge every 3 weeks. Or you could do a training session once, 3 times a week, and a Zoom session and a challenge after 3 weeks. So it's a collapsing, it's like a concertina. You can do that much or do that much.
Yeah.
Great, lots of options.
That's the point. And I don't want to create too many options because because people get too confused by too many options. Anyway, Chrissy and Paul, any other points? Any other points? Thanks, Heidi.
No, loving it. I think this change for me in terms of what you're doing, I found my mobility is improved massively. I think the HIIT sessions are really helping with both the short and the long things. I think so. It's refreshing to have a different approach, and I think it's really working.
Good. I've on the email, I've also stuck 3 links to resistance band stuff. I started using resistance bands about 3 years ago. They came into their own during lockdown, but they just, to me, it's a gym in your pocket. And you can't, even if you could get a 50 kilo resistance band if you wanted, but something like a 35, 25, you can do all sorts of things with it. It's not the same as doing Olympic lifts, I know, but if you're in a hotel room or whatever, or you're locked up or you're locked down, then it's not a bad alternative. And they cost about £8 or whatever the equivalent is in dinar. Rachel, no cat today.
No, they're out in the corridor. I've let them out because they were doing my head in.
Any
so they're all outside annoying the neighbours.
Good. Glad to hear that. Any points? Observations?
No, the only question I've got is about the return for this next week. Is it the level 4? You're not working on the damper. It's the level 4 on your fitness and like your heart rate and stuff like that. So you do like a minute on one, minute on something else, minute on something else.
Yeah. The damper setting, people say, depends where you read, anywhere between 6 and 8 is supposed to be the water. But same as what we're talking there with Tom and Paul, is if you do it a few times, you can vary that. You see what I mean? So you can try, I wouldn't go down to 3 and 4 in terms of damper, but try different things. So at the moment, I'm pegging it at 8. And then I'll do a week of 8, on 7. I'll do a week of 6, and I'll just see what the difference is. Just to build up that idea about what how I can change my performance and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick one. With the rowing machines, depending on how old and new they are, your damper setting will be different to every rowing machine.
Yeah.
So just remember that.
Nikki, what was the because you had I know how to go in and you can change it, can't you? But what is the figure that you go by? Is it 118 or something?
No, 120 drag factor.
120. Say that again. 120.
120 drag factor for women and 130 for men. That's kind of what the rowing guys go by.
Okay.
I hadn't heard of the 130, but the I think the notional Jonah Lomu, I know he's dead now, but at his prime, he was 120 kilos, very powerful. So they take the 120 kilo person paddler as, so if you're 120 kilos and you do, I don't know, 120 for 500 meters or whatever you're doing. Yep.
Yeah, weight adjusted.
On your weight, there's a sliding scale in the same way that this sliding scale I've got with the kettlebells. So yeah, depending on what you're pulling, then you get a weighting factor. Where is it? Where it is?
Yeah, you can do it on the Concept 2 website. They do
yes,
weight adjusted.
So it's the same, roughly speaking, it's the same sort of thing as that. So if you're swinging 26 kilos, then you get an enhanced score. But what the way it goes with rowing is the lighter you are, then in theory and in most practice, your power to weight is greater, so you get an enhanced score. And it also encourages people to, if they've got a bit of spare weight, they might want to sort of do something with it. But that's another issue. Yeah,
if you're above 60 kilograms, they weight you on a heavyweight. Then you're in the heavyweight division.
Right.
And they also take your arm span into consideration as well, because obviously, yeah, longer arms.
Oh, right.
Pulling, right?
Right, leverage, right.
Short people with shorter arms and generally shorter bodies will struggle to get the same. That's why they do it on
Well, that's not fair. Speaking as a long arm person. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's me, Nikki.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Right, let's where are we then? So, Deborah, any points?
Yeah, I was very interested in the psychology of breaking down, you know, distances, because I am one that I know I beat myself up on this, and I don't always, I think sometimes the distance beats me before I've even, you know, got it in my head that I can do it. And I know I suffer a bit with that. Even if I'm not conscious of it, I think I do.
Right.
And my husband always said, you could run faster. But I'm always trying to save myself, I think, because I'm frightened of failing.
I would prescribe, if I was a doctor of paddleology, I would prescribe the works of Muhammad Ali about the skill and the will, and also the 100 burpee challenge. I'll prescribe that to you as well. But anyway, that's another story. Anyway, moving on. James, thank you.
Sorry, can I just mention that on the rower? Just so you know, so like me and Tom have been talking about this. Sometimes some of the challenges we've gone out, and we've gone out so hard, we've given up. You know, so it's really interesting on the rowing machine, particularly trying to find that right threshold. So if you go out too hard, you're just dead. And I like about the exercise is trying to find where that threshold is. So for me, never fear about, if you try and do a 2K and you've blown up after 500 meters, it's not a bad thing. It's about finding your threshold.
Glad you mentioned that, because I forgot to mention it earlier. I mean, I know you don't do a lot of single boat paddling over there, but one of the things we do with single boats, be OC1, O1, K1, whatever, paddleboard, is when we talk about starts, you can do a 30-stroke start, 20-stroke start, 15-stroke start, you know, 3, 5, 7. And we tell people to go out and try different length starts. Now, pretty much most people with dragon boats should really be up to speed in 15 to 20, depending on athleticism. Lots of crews do 30-stroke starts. So I always get people to go out and do a 70-stroke start. And this is what Paul's talking about. Massive off the start, and then you die. So it's working out. The point is you're going up the ladder, if you like. So there's your acceleration piece, and then you're trying to flatten out. In reality, it sort of probably tails off a bit. But if you go out too hard, then your profile is there as opposed to there. If that makes sense with my graphics. You see what I mean? So that's what we're talking about there. What is the optimum start? And this start, when you think about it, you're going through the gears, initiate, accelerate, dominate, or whatever terminology you want to use. But you don't initiate, accelerate, and die, because you've still got 200 meters, 500 meters, 2K to finish. So that's where the science and the methodology comes into it. Exactly that. And that's, like I say, you know, ideally you'd say a dragon boat, if you get a crew to be up to speed into transition in 15 strokes, that's great. But a friend of mine, Pat Bradley, who's a Canadian coach, by mistake, he had it was a 21 stroke thing. They did 18, 3 6s, and then a 3-stroke transition. And the idea was they kept accelerating. So if you like, initiate, accelerate, consolidate, dominate, or whatever, yeah? But on one occasion, he forgot to tell them about the transition, and he noticed they just kept accelerating. So you see what I mean? So what I do now, as a result of that, is you might do it in sets of 4, 5, 6. And Nikki, it might be worth trying this. Say you did your first 3 strokes, get the boat moving, and then you go into sets of 6. And keep taking it up and taking it up and taking it up and taking it up. And the idea is to get to that optimum, that sort of transition into cruise, stride, chug, whatever terminology, as fast as possible. But very often, if people aren't working hard enough, they won't quite get there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So there's nothing fixed until it's tested, measured, and adjusted. Or I'd say measure, evaluate, assess, and test. That's it. If it hasn't met the meet, then it needs to be re-meted. If that makes sense. So measure, assess, what did I say? Measure, evaluate, assess, test. Everything. Okay, it gets a bit anal, but apologies. Right, James, you've been there patiently, my friend.
I'm all good, mate. Thanks.
All good.
Oh,
okay,
yep.
Catherine. God.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's a bit loud here. I'm still here. Yeah, my thing is the motivation on my own. Like when it's a team, like this is why I do a team sport, because it gets me up at 3:45 in the morning to get to practice on time. It's when, for example, doing the returns and I'm sat at my own at home, that's where I have the issue. So I'm really looking forward to the group stuff. And like, if we're all doing it together, that's where, like, as you said before, if you're doing it for the team, yeah, then no problem, I have no issues. But then my motivation is, again, doing it, the exercises on my own and then going to the gym. So I will sign up to classes and then, because I know I've signed up and I have to go. Whereas if it was, oh, I've got to go to the gym, then I tend to make other excuses and not end up going.
And it's human nature. Yeah, if the reason isn't big enough, the excuse will be. That's everyone, isn't it? I say it just is. It's just the way it is with everyone, however motivated they are. Brilliant. Okay. Abigail, did we do Abigail? I think we did.
Yes, we did.
Okay. And Michelle, and we'll finish off with Michelle Teasel. So.
Yep. All good
on my side.
Yep.
All good. Just looking forward to being fully vaccinated, and then I can perhaps get on the front of the boat, or at least sit in the back, and you know.
No, you're going on the nose.
I'm going on the where?
On the nose. You're going on the.
Okay. Well, that's overrun a little bit. Apologies for that, but a really good chat. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. I say, any questions you've forgotten to ask? We were going to talk about paddle today, but I'll pick up the tutorials next week. I just wanted to get that discussed, and I'll send out within half an hour. I'll send out the proposed program. Any observations, feedback is a gift, so feedback welcome. But I'll aim to get a program agreed by the group by Friday, and then we'll launch it and we'll